The religion of Judaism, like many others, takes on several different modern-day forms. All the denominations of Judaism believe in core values such as 1GD. In reverence of GDS names, some people do not write GDS full name on paper, and the centrality of the Torah, Old Testament, and Jewish law in the practice of the faith. Jewish houses of worship, synagogues, regardless of denomination, reflect this fact through the common attributes that they all share. However, in day-to-day practice of our faith and how our faith is observed, people do follow different paths in Judaism. But the ties that bind us together as a Jewish community are much stronger than those aspects of ritual that separate us as Jews. Further, Judaism, while rooted in religious practice, is not just a religion. Judaism is also a culture, with ties to traditions in foods, song, language, geography, history, and more. Jews throughout New Orleans, the United States, and the world share many of these aspects of our religion and faith, and it is therefore common for Jews from anywhere around the world to understand their fellow Jews. It is what allows us as Jews to foster ourselves as Klal Israel, the community of Israel. This section will serve as a primer for important components of Judaism as well as for three of the largest denominations of Judaism in the world, and in Greater New Orleans. These are, in no order, Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform Judaism. These three do not represent the totality of Judaism, but certainly the majority of the religion in terms of affiliation. Orthodox Judaism, the oldest form of the practice of Judaism, is Orthodox Judaism. In fact, Orthodox Judaism was the only type of religious Judaism until the 1800s when the Reform Jewish movement began to grow. Orthodox Jews are a very diverse group with roots from a variety of backgrounds: Spanish/Portuguese, Eastern European, Western European, Moroccan, Persian, and many others. Even though these groups differ in some ways, such as in their pronunciation of Hebrew, they all agree in the belief of the one personal GD and in the divinely given, binding nature of the Torah and its commandments, mitzvot. Examples of the commandments are the observance of the Sabbath and festivals and the dietary laws, kosher. Orthodox Jews follow the laws written in the Shulchan Aruch, the major code of Jewish law. In fact, Orthodox Judaism is based on a legal system called halacha, Jewish law, that governs daily personal behavior from sunrise to sunset, from birth to death. At the heart of orthodoxy is the love of Torah. Studying Bible, Talmud, name of the two collections of records of the discussion and administration of Jewish law, commentaries, and responsa is a part of daily life. The philosophy of Orthodox Jews is that Torah education never ends. From the day school to the yeshiva, Jewish Rabbinical Academy, from child to adult, the Orthodox Jew will, for her whole life, discuss, read, and ponder the holy books. Study is seen as a true source of joy. In short, the life of the Orthodox Jew is one of commitment. The essence of Orthodox Judaism is observance of the commandments, a lifetime devotion to the service of GD, the study of Torah, and the keeping of GDS laws. Conservative Judaism maintains that the truths found in Jewish scriptures and other Jewish writings come from GD, but were transmitted by humans and contain a human component. Conservative Judaism generally accepts the binding nature of halacha, but believes that the law should change and adapt, absorbing aspects of the predominant culture while remaining true to Judaism's values. The idea of flexibility is deeply rooted in conservative Judaism and can be found within its own statement of principles, emet v'emunah, true and faithful. The core values of conservative Judaism are the centrality of modern Israel. For conservative Jews, as for their ancestors, Israel is not only the birthplace of the Jewish people, but also its final destiny. They visit Israel, send their children over a summer or for a year, and support financially its many worthy institutions. Hebrew, the irreplaceable language of Jewish expression, conservative Jews believe Hebrew literacy is the key to Judaism, which joins the unending dialectic between sacred texts, between Jews of different ages, and between GD and Israel. Devotion to the ideal of Klal Yisrael, people of Israel. In the consciousness of conservative Jews, there resonates the affirmation of Havrim Kol Yisrael, all Israel is joined in fellowship. Despite all the dispersion, dichotomies, and politicization that history has visited upon them, Jews remain united in a tenacious pilgrimage of universal import. The defining role of Torah in the reshaping of Judaism, after the loss of political sovereignty in 63 BC and the Second Temple in 70 CE to the Romans, the rabbis fashioned the Torah into a portable homeland, the synagogue into a national theater for religious drama and study into a form of worship. Chanting the Torah each Shabbat is still the centerpiece of the conservative service. The study of Torah, each generation and every community appropriated the Torah afresh through their own interpretive activity, creating a vast exegetically dialogue in which differences of opinion were valid and preserved. What conservative Judaism brings to this ancient and unfinished dialectic are the tools and perspectives of modern scholarship blended with traditional learning and empathy. The Governance of Jewish Life by Halacha. Halacha expresses the fundamental thrust of Judaism to concretize ethics and theology into daily practice. The native language of Judaism has always been the medium of deeds. Belief in GD. The seventh and most basic core value of conservative Judaism is its belief in GD. To speak of GD is akin to speaking about the undetected matter of the universe. GD is a felt presence rather than a visible form, a voice rather than a vision. Reform Judaism. Throughout history, Jews have remained firmly rooted in Jewish tradition, even as we learned much from our encounters with other cultures. Nevertheless, since its earliest days, Reform Judaism has asserted that a Judaism frozen in time is an heirloom, not a living fountain. The great contribution of Reform Judaism is that it has enabled the Jewish people to introduce innovation while preserving tradition, to embrace diversity while asserting commonality, to affirm beliefs without rejecting those who doubt, and to bring faith to sacred texts without sacrificing critical scholarship. Reform Judaism affirms the central tenets of Judaism, GD, Torah and Israel, even as it acknowledges the diversity of Reform Jewish beliefs and practices. Reform Jews believe that all human beings are created in the image of GD, and that they are GD's partners in improving the world. Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, is a hallmark of Reform Judaism as they strive to bring peace, freedom, and justice to all people. In addition to the Reform Jews' belief that Judaism must change and adapt to the needs of the day to survive and the firm commitment to Tikkun Olam, the following principles distinguish Reform Jews from other streams of Judaism in North America. Reform Jews are committed to the principle of inclusion, not exclusion. Since 1978, the Reform movement has been reaching out to Jews, Bikois, and interfaith families, encouraging them to embrace Judaism. Reform Jews consider children to be Jewish if they are the child of a Jewish father or mother, so long as the child is raised as a Jew. Reform Jews are committed to the absolute equality of women in all areas of Jewish life. We were the first movement to ordain women rabbis, invest women cantors, and elect women presidents of our synagogues. Reform Jews are also committed to the full participation of gays and lesbians in synagogue life as well as society at large. Important components of Judaism's synagogue. The synagogue is the modern house of Jewish worship. It has served as the focus of Jewish life since 70 CE, after the loss of the temple to the Romans. The interior of the synagogue is relatively simple and functional. In the center of the synagogue, in the sanctuary for prayer, is the bima, the raised platform on which the Torah is read. This emphasizes the central role of Torah in the synagogue worship. The Torah is handwritten by a trained scribe on parchment made from a kosher animal. The Torah has to be written with no mistakes. The letters must be clear. The writing must not be faded. If there is something wrong with the Torah, it cannot be used until it is repaired by a scribe. On the eastern wall is the Aron HaKosh, the Holy Ark, in which the Torah scrolls are kept. By facing the eastern wall of the sanctuary, Jews pray facing the land of Israel. Above the ark is the Netamid, the eternal light. The Bible records that one of the priestly duties was to keep the candelabrum lit before the Lord, to burn regularly, Leviticus 24 verse 4. It symbolizes the spiritual enlightenment which forever emanates from the Torah. Tzedakah to Jews today, the term tzedakah connotes giving charitable contributions. In the Bible, tzedakah means righteous behavior and is often paired theologically with the term justice. In Jewish thought and tradition, material support for those in need is not a matter of charity, a term that implies generosity beyond what may be expected, but a requirement. How Jews give tzedakah is as important as what they give. It is important not to humiliate the person receiving the tzedakah. Instead, the highest form of tzedakah is for neither the givers nor the recipients to know who one another is. Israel. The history of the Jewish people begins with Abraham, and the story of Abraham begins when God tells him to leave his homeland, promising Abraham and his descendants a new home in the land of Canaan. This is the land known today as Israel, named after Abraham's grandson, whose descendants are the Jewish people. The land is often referred to as the Promised Land because of God's repeated promise to give the land to the descendants of Abraham. Through centuries of exile, Jewish hopes and prayers were focused on regaining and living in this land. Anti-Semitism led some 19th-century Jews to see the establishment of a sovereign Jewish nation as the sole way to ensure Jewish survival. The idea of Zionism was then created. This, by definition, is the international, political and ideological movement devoted to securing the return of the Jewish people to Israel. Today, approximately 5 million Jews, more than a third of the world's Jewish population, live in the land of Israel. Jews make up more than 80% of the population of the land, and Jews are in political control of the land. Israel is the site of the holiest places on earth for Jews. The Western Wall is regarded as the closest portion of the retaining wall supporting the Temple Mount. Therefore, it is considered the last remaining piece of the Second Temple and is the holiest place for Jews. During religious services in the United States and Europe, Jews face east, towards Jerusalem, as a symbol of religious connection to the land of Israel. The end of the Sabbath is marked by the Havdah, distinction, service, which means to separate between the weekend of rest and the work week. In this service, one smells the scent of the spice box, sees the light of the braided candle, and drinks the wine, in order to hold on to these aspects of the Sabbath throughout the work week until the next Sabbath arrives. Rosh Hashanah, literally, head of the year, refers to the celebration of the Jewish New Year. The holiday is observed on the first day of the Hebrew month of Tishrei, which usually falls in September or October, and marks the beginning of a 10-day period of prayer, self-examination and repentance, which culminates on Yom Kippur. These 10 days are referred to as Yamim Noraim, the days of awe or the high holy days. While there are elements of joy and celebration, Rosh Hashanah is a deeply religious occasion. The customs and symbols of Rosh Hashanah reflect the holiday's dual emphasis, happiness and humility. Special customs observed on Rosh Hashanah include the sounding of the shofar, ram's horn, round challah bread, and eating apples and honey, and other sweet foods, in order to have a sweet new year. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, and refers to the annual Jewish observance of fasting, prayer and repentance. This is considered to be the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. In 3 separate passages in the Torah, the Jewish people are told, the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement. It shall be a sacred occasion for you, you shall practice self-denial. Leviticus 23 verse 27. Fasting is seen as fulfilling this biblical commandment. The Yom Kippur fast also enables us to put aside our physical desires and to concentrate on our spiritual needs through prayer, repentance and self-improvement. It is customary in the days before Yom Kippur for Jews to seek out friends and family whom one might have wronged and personally ask for their forgiveness. Sukkot, a Hebrew word meaning booths, or huts, refers to the Jewish festival of giving thanks for the fall harvest, as well as the commemoration of the 40 years of Jewish wandering in the desert after the Exodus from Egypt. Sukkot is celebrated 5 days after Yom Kippur on the 15th of Tishrei and is marked by several distinct traditions. One tradition, which takes the commandment to dwell in booths literally, is to build a sukkah, a temporary booth or hut. A sukkah is often erected by Jews during this festival, and it is common practice for some to eat and even live in these temporary dwellings during Sukkot. Simchat Torah, Hebrew for rejoicing in the law, celebrates the completion of the annual reading of the Torah. Simchat Torah is a joyous festival in which Jews affirm their view of the Torah as a tree of life and demonstrate a living example of never-ending, lifelong study. Torah scrolls are taken from the Ark and carried or danced around the synagogue 7 times. During the Torah service, the concluding section of Deuteronomy is read, and immediately following, the opening section of Genesis, or Breshit, as it is called in Hebrew, is read. Hanukkah, meaning dedication, in Hebrew, refers to the joyous 8-day celebration during which Jews commemorate the victory of the Maccabees over the armies of Syria in 165 BC and the subsequent liberation and rededication of the Temple in Jerusalem. The modern home celebration of Hanukkah centers around the lighting of the Hanukkah, a special 9-branch menorah for Hanukkah, unique foods such as potato pancakes called latkes and jelly donuts, and special songs and games. Purim is celebrated by the reading of the Scroll of Esther, known in Hebrew as the Megillat Esther, which relates the story of Purim. Under the rule of King Ahasuerus in Persia, known today as Iran, Haman, the king's prime minister, plots to exterminate all of the Jews of Persia. His plan is foiled by Queen Esther and her cousin Mordecai, who are both Jewish, who ultimately save the Jews of the land from destruction. The reading of the Megillah is typically a rowdy affair, which is punctuated by booing and noise-making when Haman's name is read aloud and people dressing up as their favorite Purim character. Purim is an unusual holiday in many respects. First, Esther is the only book of the Bible in which GD is not mentioned. Second, Purim, like Hanukkah, is viewed by tradition as a minor festival. The elevation of Purim to a major holiday was a result of the Jewish historical experience. Over the centuries, Haman became the embodiment of every anti-Semite in every land where Jews were oppressed. Passover, Pesach, known as Passover in English, is a major Jewish spring festival, commemorating the exodus from Egypt over 3,000 years ago. The ritual observance of this holiday centers around a special home service called the Seder, meaning order, and a festive meal, the prohibition of chametz, leaven, and the eating of matzah, an unleavened bread. On the eve of the 15th day of Nisan in the Hebrew calendar, we read from a book called the Haggadah, meaning telling, which contains the order of prayers, rituals, readings, and songs for the Pesach Seder. The Pesach Seder is the only ritual meal in the Jewish calendar year for which such an order is prescribed, hence its name. The Seder plate contains various symbolic foods referred to in the Seder itself. Shavuot is a Hebrew word meaning weeks, and refers to the Jewish festival marking the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. Shavuot, like so many other Jewish holidays, began as an ancient agricultural festival, marking the end of the spring barley harvest and the beginning of the summer wheat harvest. Shavuot was distinguished in ancient times by bringing crop offerings to the temple in Jerusalem. Shavuot, also known as the Festival of the Giving of the Torah, dates from biblical times and helps to explain the holiday's name, weeks. The Torah tells us it took precisely 49 days for our ancestors to travel from Egypt to the foot of Mount Sinai where they were to receive the Torah. Thus, the book of Vayikra, known in English as Leviticus 23 verse 21 commands, "And you shall proclaim that day, the 50th day, to be a holy convocation." The name Shavuot, weeks, symbolizes the completion of a 7-week journey. The ceremony of confirmation for young men and women who have completed the 10th grade in Sunday religious school takes place during or near Shavuot. A special custom on Shavuot is the reading of the Book of Ruth, which reminds us that we too can find a continual source of blessing in our tradition. Other Jewish observances Yom HaShoah, also known as Holocaust Remembrance Day, occurs on the 27th of Nisan. Shoah, which means catastrophe or utter destruction in Hebrew, refers to the atrocities that were committed against the Jewish people during World War II. This is a memorial day for those who died in the Shoah. Yom Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israeli Independence Day, marks the establishment of the modern state of Israel in 1948. It is observed on the 5th of Iyar in the Hebrew calendar, which usually falls in April. The Jewish life cycle, as in most religions, life cycle events are special: a baby being born, a boy or girl becoming an adult, coming of age, the marriage ceremony, and, of course, the loss of life through death. As in any other religion, Judaism has its own customs for each of these life cycle events. A baby is born. When a baby is born, it is traditional to have a ceremony that establishes a covenant between the newborn and the Jewish faith. For a boy, this is a Brit Milah, the covenant of circumcision, and for a girl, a Brit Bat, daughter's covenant, is sometimes performed, depending on a family's religious practice. At each ceremony, the name of the newborn is officially given. Ashkenazic Jews traditionally may name their children after deceased members of the family. Sephardic Jews may traditionally name their children after living relatives. Brit, covenant, promise, agreement, contract. Brit Milah, a ceremony where the newborn son is circumcised 8 days after birth and when his name is officially given. Circumcision is the oldest ritual in Judaism, going back to Abraham. The patriarch was instructed to circumcise himself at the age of 99 and circumcise his 13-year-old son Ishmael and later his infant Isaac when he was 8 days old. Throughout history, circumcision has been the physical mark that distinguished Jewish males from their non-Jewish neighbors. Brit Bat, the daughter's covenant, is a relatively new ceremony also called Simchat Bat, the daughter's joy. She is blessed and given her Hebrew name either at synagogue or at a celebration at the house. Jewish education. Jews have often been called the people of the book, commonly referring to the Torah. However, educating Jewish children has always been a very important aspect of the tradition and culture throughout history. According to Jewish law, a community must build a school before it builds a synagogue, indicating the emphasis placed on education. Consecration, a ceremony to celebrate the first steps taken in the formal Jewish education. Kindergarten children in Sunday religious school are consecrated, blessed, and often given the gift of a little, plastic Torah, symbolizing the start of their Jewish education. Bar/bat mitzvah, when a boy or girl turns 13, she is considered able to fulfill the adult rituals of the religion, and take on the responsibilities and obligations that being an adult entails, as well as being fully included in rituals, depending upon the denomination. To celebrate this special occasion, many children study for an extended period of time and, on a specific day, lead a service for the first time, as they become children of the commandment. The date of this event is often closely tied into the English or Hebrew birth date of the child. Kiddushin, the Jewish wedding ceremony. A Jewish wedding is like that of any wedding, with a ceremony, a meal, and lots of singing and dancing. And like other faiths, the wedding ceremony also includes a number of traditions symbolizing aspects of Judaism. Prior to the ceremony, the bride and groom sign a Jewish marriage contract called the ketubah. Also immediately prior to some weddings, the groom veils the bride in a process called the bedecking. This refers back to when Jacob was tricked into marrying Leah over Rachel and did not know that he was marrying the wrong sister. This is to ensure that the groom is marrying the women he thinks that he is supposed to marry. The bride and groom stand under a chuppah or wedding canopy. The chuppah is the symbol of the Jewish home for the couple. Under the chuppah, the bride and groom traditionally exchange rings that are plain and perfectly round, absent of stones, representative of their continuous, unending love. The ceremony is marked by 7 blessings, and the traditional encircling of the groom by the bride during the reading of these blessings. The ceremony is ended by the breaking of a glass by the groom, reminding both of the fragility of life and the constant need to work together to ensure good times amongst the sad ones. In some cases, the breaking of the glass is considered a reminder of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Death, burial, and mourning. From a Jewish perspective, death and dying are seen as being part of life and living. There is a time to be born and a time to die. From dust we are fashioned and to dust we return. The art of Jewish dying is a fundamental factor in the art of Jewish living. The burial process for a Jew is somewhat simple and somewhat complicated. There are set procedures for the preparation of a body to be buried, with attending prayers. In some denominations, only Jews are allowed to conduct these procedures, including the funeral itself, and the place of burial has to be a plot of land that has been marked as a Jewish burial site. In the aftermath of the funeral, family can sit Shiva for a 7-day period immediately following the burial. During this period of time, visitation to the home of the mourners takes place, and mourners are not expected to work or conduct other aspects of normal daily life. The next 30 days, shloshim, traditionally is the mourning period for everyone, except when mourning parents. If a parent passes away, the full mourning period traditionally is for 11 months, and at the end of this year period an unveiling ceremony takes place, where the headstone for the grave is unveiled.